Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast, where you'll learn about advanced wealth building strategies from real estate investing to creating massive ROI and secured retirement profits. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, grab a notepad, and lean in, because Big Mike has got the mic, starting now.
Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast. I'm the Big Mike Zlatnik, and today it is my pleasure and a privilege to welcome Connie Wang. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Mike.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Connie is a close friend. She is a sister from the Collective Genius Mastermind. We've been friends for a number of years, and we've invested into many deals, and we've built great friendship. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Connie, you live in Austin, Texas. Could you tell us a little bit about, first of all, you, your family, as I like to put, about my family? I'm married with 4 monkeys and a cat. 4 kids and a cat. How would you characterize your family?
I live in Austin about 20 years already, and I'm married with 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. That's it.
No
Cats, no dogs.
That's great. And just tell a little bit about you. You are your real estate fund manager. You manage fund. You have a lot of one-off deals. You manage real estate portfolio in Austin. Just talk a little bit about what you do and what you invest in.
Sure. I think mainly it's about the real estate investment. So anything I would consider worth to invest, I would invest. So it's not like one form of just have to invest on certain type of deals. That's why I have a fund which combine equity project and a debt project, and then I do individual project as well, because those projects are much bigger. So I'll do syndication, and also I'll do even single family house, building single family house, as long as I find a value in the land, or I have a way to add value.
That makes a lot of sense. So you're an opportunistic investor. You have your eyes open and your ears open, and you're listening to where the opportunities are. But let's talk a little bit about Austin. So Austin would appear to be a massive growth market right now. The latest news I heard, and again, this is recent, and there've been a lot of previous news, that Tesla is moving corporate headquarters from California to Austin. And many other big companies, I think like Oracle, have already made the move. So why Austin? What's so special about Austin? Why people are moving into Austin?
I've been living in Austin 20 years, so I can literally every year can even feel how many people are moving in daily. I believe right now the statistic is about close to 200 people per day. The thing is, Austin is Texas capital, right? It's only one third of the size of Houston, but the people, if we say Metro Austin, is 2.5 million. I heard one report saying every 20 years Austin double the size, but I mean Austin had, since I moved in like 20 years ago, Austin has always been named one of the top 10 best living city, mainly because the life balance, because it's a Silicon Hill, right? That's been called like more than 20 years, Silicon Hill. But in recent 10 years, it become growing crazy. I mean, even should be recent 2 or 3 years, even get crazier. We can sense every day how traffic hit us on the highway. So you mentioned the Tesla. Yeah, Tesla is definitely a big news this year. But Oracle headquarters moved here too, and Amazon, Google, Facebook, AT&T, HP, you name it. All the big IT companies seems like have to have a presence in Austin, and now it's getting bigger and bigger. So like like Apple has been in Austin long time, but recently they invested over $1 billion, build like 15,000 jobs site. They are growing. It just it just at the beginning. So all the people are looking at the potential for the next 20 years because they just at the beginning. The site is not even up yet, but that's a long-term plan. So that's why how many people, and also see Tesla announced the biggest gigafactory built in Austin, right? That's like 2,100 acre acquisition. And recently he bought another close to 400 acre again. And then all the facilitated companies, all the upper chain, lower chain, all moved surrounding areas. So that's just a trend, and people all see the trend. It's like I remember when I was working in Visa long time ago before I do an investment. Um, the CEO had us because when Austin site opened the first day, I was there. So when the CEO came to tell us why they chose Austin, I still remember he said we checked the several years for all the cities compared to, like, it's not like Austin you can find the lowest cost land or labor. No, it's not like that. It's talents. I think that's the threshold. And he mentioned Austin is the easiest among all, like other than Silicon Valley, right? Is the easiest we can find 1,000 high tech people within a short period of time. If you give me going anywhere, even the land, the policy very favor us, we cannot construct a team so quickly. So that hit me pretty darn hard. But that was like 15, like a long time ago. So imagine over this many years, how much tech company, it's like a snowball. At the beginning, people start trying, and then you have a big company present in Austin, then you attract talents over, and talents track the company over, company track talents over. So it's like a win-win. It's getting snowball. And at a certain point, it just people, and also Austin is very small. Like I'm getting spoiled in Austin. I don't like going anywhere because Austin, you cross the whole town in 30 minutes. So I live anywhere, 5 minutes to go to Costco. So 10 minutes, I'm walking distance to my office. So people get used to that. And Austin has that mountain view, skyline view, and I think it's called music, capital of music, capital of the world for music town. I don't know what it's named. It's number one. So it has a lot of entertainment, and it's small town, and it has the mountain, river, Colorado River, Travis Lake. So it's rarely you can combine the views, the mountain, the beautiful entertainment while it's high tech and close to work. So it's life balance. Plus Texas is the red state, right? So it gives a lot of incentive for company moving over, like tax benefit and a lot of policies. I think anybody being a landlord knows how great being a landlord in Texas, because it's easy to evict. A lot of policies just favor landlord way more than in California, and the Texas does not have state tax. I know in past 2 years after COVID, I think a lot of people moving to Texas from California because people working from home. For example, YouTuber, right? Those people are making so much money. And the problem is, why do I have to stay in California? I'm paying 13+% of income tax. While in Texas, I pay zero. I can work anywhere. Why do I have to stay paying so much tax? So it's a lot of reason people start moving in, but it's a snowball. At a certain point, it's just getting win-win. Like all the facilities and all the companies tech. Now it's like all the best, biggest company, you can find a multiple present in Austin, north, south, east. So I think only gonna get better. That's why there are so many industrial parks being in the pipeline, building huge tech parks, company parks, it's just crazy amount of money invested in surrounding Austin, because Austin Central has been becoming too tight. So people are looking for surrounding.
Yeah,
I guess I covered most of stuff.
Oh, you did great, Connie. You covered so many great points, from very friendly business environment to the quality of life.
Oh, another thing I think that people usually do not mention, I think it's definitely worth mention, because Texas is a red state, but Austin, most of the people vote Democrats. That's not a news. Everybody knows Austin's pretty democratic.
Well, the
But
California Democrats who moved over to Austin, right?
yes, but why do I say that? Austin has the most rigid on permitting. So that, just like California and New York, where you have more permitting, usually the land is more expensive because it's harder to get a permit. It's harder to more costly to build um, real estate, right? So you can see the real estate growth and real estate price among whole Texas. Austin always has been the number one. If you go to Houston, because you can use the land for whatever, there's not much permitting, you have enough land, you can do whatever. So the price is not, the growing speed is not even nearly as Austin's just too hard. Like in like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you have the permitting for the height. Even in downtown, you cannot go over Capitol height. So they have a lot of restrictions you can build, but that actually pumped up the price even higher.
Yeah, the point is very well understood, that real estate prices do follow the business development and migration of people, and you're absolutely right. It's both. It's the chicken and the egg effect. If the technology companies come, then the employees come, and if the employees come, more companies come. Austin has absolutely reached critical mass. It's well beyond the critical mass to sort of, over time, it could become the Silicon Valley. What used to be the California Silicon Valley could now be Texas Silicon Valley, where all the technology companies are moving in, which is great for the city. One of the side effects, which is not so good, and you mentioned this, you're going to see some traffic. You're going to see more and more traffic over time. So,
people telling me on airport, I didn't find it. They said Austin people saying, "Welcome to Austin, but please don't stay." So funny. It's just going too crazy for local Austin people. I heard a lot of complaint because they feel like the traffic getting way worse, just like dramatically in a few years. Oh, Samsung just announced the move to Austin as well for their new chips companies.
yeah, it makes total sense for the locals. The quality of life is unfortunately getting worse because all these newcomers are coming. And for California folks who experience the worst traffics that I've seen in the States, where six lanes each way is a parking lot, not moving, Austin probably feels like a breeze, relatively speaking. So it's what happens when you have a great city, great, obviously, business climate, as well as quality of life. People will migrate naturally over time. And yeah, the no state tax versus the California 13% rate is it's a big differentiator. It's a massive incentive for people to work from anywhere, and they choose to work from Austin. So that's,
and essentially Elon this year said Austin, like public, he said Austin, Texas will be the biggest boomtown that America has seen in 50 years. He's so strong supporting us.
yeah, it's happening. It is happening. So congratulations being in the city, and all your real estate investments in the city, well, not all of them, many or maybe all, should do really well over time as this appreciation wave that'll rise, kind of the tide will rise all boats. So now let's talk a little bit about, just switch the subject. So you're a brilliant marketer to the Chinese investment community. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the community. How is it different? You raise capital, again, from a lot of Chinese investors, both from China and local who are in the United States. So I'm just curious, what's the difference in the mentality of a Chinese investor versus your typical American investor? And of course, there are cultural differences, but I'm just curious, what's your observation? So people invest in your projects, they invest in your fund. What is important to them? What are the most important things to Chinese investors? You don't need to compare it to American investors, but your observations with Chinese investors. What do you see? Specific characteristics, specific strengths? And it's a different thinking, a little bit different. It's a cultural difference. So just curious.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest, I would say two, let's say the first one, two factors. One, most of the people immigrant to US are at least bachelor degree, holding bachelor or higher degrees. So, and the majority of them goes to either tech field, right? Technology or like accounting, those type of jobs. So for upper middle class investors, they are very analytical because they have very good math. They have mathematical thinking, analytical mindset. So they like to figure out things themselves. Instead of giving a lot of high level view on project, how good is it, how great return is, they wanted to double check on their own. So they even calculate every number on their own. So I think that's a pretty big difference. You would encounter people asking you how you get this number. This is how I calculate it. So they have on that. But those, like I said, if the immigrants from EB5 for business reason, they are not like that. They're still pretty analytical, but they're in a more higher level. So basically, we kind of trying to figure out where are those high net worth people coming from, either from tech world, they have a RSU, right, from a stock option and a high paid job, or from EB5 investment, from their existing investment in China, they just moved over. They are different type of people to invest. And so analytical. The second, I think it's because they definitely have this Chinese mindset, culture. In China, there are a lot of how do I say, a lot of investment as well, but we do not have enough regulations yet, like SEC, very rigid on certain details, like where you can raise money and for how much, for what type of deals, very detailed regulations. But in China, we're growing to there, but it has not been there, has not gotten that mature yet, let's say, the system-wise. So there are some scams happening around us, to our parents, to our relatives. They become more suspicious. So it's not easy to gain trust just by looking at your commercials, some advertisement, or by talking to you. You need a much longer period of time to gain the trust. Like no matter what you say, they would still feel like what I don't know behind. So building the trust, it takes longer. But once you build the trust, because Chinese people still read Chinese better. So the thick legal documents, you don't imagine most people would read like a 186 pages legal documents. So they are not comfortable to sign something that thick in English, which they can read all of them. They prefer read Chinese, but there's no translation for every project for 186 pages translation. So at that point, they rely on trust. So they figure out the number, then they need to trust some company, some person. Once you gain the trust, then they follow each other. Like I invested with you and been successful, have good record, and then the people surround that person, everybody will hear about it, and then they will go invest. So I think not a huge difference, but the warm up period will be longer. Like how you gain their first trust will take the longest, but after that, ironically not rely on numbers, they rely on trust, because in US everything you need to sign paperwork and thick documents, so that's what they need to rely on, trust to sign.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. Very interesting view. So the technical engineering, math backgrounds drive to a lot more scientific questions, more mathematical questions, understanding how it works, not just what, not just a black box that you're going to put the money in, it's going to generate certain cash flow and certain return, but how, which is a great question, or why. The question why is the most important question of them all. Explain to me why this is going to work. So makes total sense. And then, yeah, the trust issue is a pretty important issue, and it's true everywhere. I think culturally, many folks, that's how they go around the world. Until you can build the know, like, and trust.
Yeah, we always say real estate is a relationship business. It is true.
Even more, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like even us, right? We do deals, and like I seems like I never invested in a deal just purely based on the brochure. Never. I always need to have cross reference and someone done deals with them, and how they give them how they grade their professionalism and their skills level. I would be like gaining at least 50% of confidence just from the background check, the cross reference those. Then I'll look at the deals.
Yeah, that's a great point. The way I like to sort of put it, and I think you have very similar philosophy. You always start with people. You have to establish the know, like, and trust. Obviously, all that includes abilities, communications, integrity, and everything related. But you start with people, and then after that, it's the deals themselves, and then deal level economics. Almost like this, you can have the most pretty looking deal with a stranger. Would you invest with them even if the deal looked like superb deal? And the answer is probably not. If you don't know who you're investing with, at least hopefully most investors, other than those who are just too trustworthy, and it sounds like Chinese culture is not. So bright and shiny objects and great numbers by themselves don't mean anything if you don't trust
exactly
it.
Yeah, because you can play numbers. We all know, like the IRR, you can move anything, even just move the tax or maybe the loan percentage a little bit. The IRR can jump easily 2%. So if you move a little bit here, there, increase the estimated rent increase. Okay, you move another 2 point. So you can't count down all those because you can't have all the parameters how it leads you to the IRR today. There are hundreds parameters plugged in, but that's why most of Chinese people are analytical, only can understand on the surface level, in my opinion. They can never understand deeply, and then they still rely on hugely on trust. But when they ask those analytical questions, they are expecting you be professional, knowledgeable enough to answer them. They can understand, in a way they can understand that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, makes total sense. It's the pro forma spreadsheet, the questions about all the assumptions. It's what you and I do because we are fund managers and we want to dig behind the numbers. You're absolutely right. Even a quarter move in the cap rate can move the IRR 2 to 3% up or down, and then a little bit of movement, one of the two other variables, you can suddenly take a deal that's conservatively underwritten for, say, 17-18% and make it look like 28% return. It's as crazy as it sounds, but I've seen that, and it's almost, and I'm just deviating a little bit. Recently, I looked at a few operators, and their numbers, they're projecting returns in the 30+% range. At the same time, you look at what they do, they take 5% asset acquisition fee. And you look at it as how good are these deals to be able to collect massive fee up front and give investors. So something doesn't always add up. When the deals look too good to be true, especially now, people have to be extra careful. I'd rather see a deal underwritten for an IRR in the high teens, but conservatively than a deal underwritten for 25-30% with aggressive numbers, because that is a marketing ploy in essence. So Let's continue the conversation. So Chinese community, how do you market to a Chinese community? I know you have a substantial social media presence. I'm just curious, what is this, the TikTok? TikTok, maybe not TikTok, but how do the Chinese community have their own version of Facebook? Forgive my ignorance. I'm just curious, how does it work? Is it social media, or there are some kind of other platforms how you communicate with your investors?
Chinese people using completely a different set of social media tools. That's why it's harder for the two worlds to mingle, because like everybody use WeChat. WeChat's like WhatsApp, kind of, but I think powerful. It can pretty much can do anything. The cool thing is almost 99% of Chinese people using this single app. It's not like here, some people using WhatsApp, some people using Facebook, or different, everybody using that. So, but that's not being used outside of Chinese community, Asian community, outside of the Asian community a lot. So it's isolated. And we also have WeChat platform. People are reading all those articles. And TikTok in China is Douyin. It's another version of TikTok, but the two versions are completely separate. People don't view TikTok. Right? Chinese people rarely go on TikTok. They go to Chinese version TikTok. It's another app. So we have to create this loop, the circle, for people to, like a funnel, attract the investor to notice us first, and then go in from there. They will messaging us. Let's say use the Chinese version of WhatsApp, right? Messaging us, and then we'll redirect them. We also use email, phone number. Those are definitely part of the communication. But within the social media, we will redirect them into like WeChat platform, WeChat groups, and messaging them, and I would say different age group of people viewing different social media. Like most of people in, over 30 years old, or maybe above 30, 25, basically middle age to senior age, or more in YouTube. But younger people in TikTok. So for investor, we have way more investor watching YouTube than TikTok.
Yeah, which makes total sense. Your typical investor avatar is not as young. They typically are established. They've had a career. They've had some success. So
yeah, but the thing is, for people in China, but most of my investors are actually resides in US or Canada or somewhere outside of mainland China, but they have relatives, they have friends, they have other investment. They want to transfer money from China over, but in China, people cannot see like Dropbox, YouTube, all the Google, all those things they cannot use. That's the problem. So those like YouTube is so powerful, have so many good content. They can do their own judgment, right, based on what they learn. But the problem is they cannot even open the link. So they have a different, so every time we upload something, we upload on both YouTube and on like a Bilibili. Yeah, Bilibili, other places in China, in Chinese domain, they can view it. So it's different way of marketing and understanding what age of groups of audience like we go to which social media and what kind of content. Like our content is very high level. Like we'll talk about the macroeconomics, we'll talk about the currency, we'll talk about the interest rate and Fed's policy, talk about all the macro kind of things, and then we'll dive into tell them what's the off market, what the real estate investment really mean, not just like buying a single family house, like way more deep content. People who has knowledge, well, like us. So our targeted audience is like conversion rate is very high, because most of people are reading our articles or hear me talking on YouTube, they immediately will contact us to become our investor pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I guess what you do in Chinese that it's true in English or anywhere else. He or she who educates dominates. So if you educate them in whatever high level of economics, economic trends, or specific projects, you build the trust by educating them, which makes total sense. Connie, I appreciate your wisdom. As I say, all good things come to an end, and so does this podcast episode. It's been wonderful. We covered some great topics. Appreciate your wisdom. If anyone is interested to reach out, is there a good way for folks to contact you again? Whatever you're comfortable, don't give your cell phone number. More of a, here's a website, go here and you can learn a little bit about whatever you're comfortable to share.
I think it's my website, ufundinvestment.com. The letter U and the fund, F-U-N-D, investment without S.com. I have the events menu there, which can dive into my YouTube channel, other places.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you very much for sharing. It's you.
Oh, one more, but the YouTube's in Chinese, so forget about it. I just realized.
I'm sure there's some folks that are listening to my podcast, maybe that Chinese Americans, so they can probably. But the easiest, at least the first point of contact, go to ufundinvestment.com, and then they can go from there. So.
Yeah, I'm very honored to be here today, and we've been doing deals for many years. I appreciate the opportunity, and also I appreciate every opportunity we've ever worked together.
Thank you, Connie. I'm honored and humbled.
Thank you for listening to the Big Mike Fund Podcast. To receive your copy of Mike's How to Choose a Smart Real Estate Fund book, head to BigMikeFund.com or visit Amazon and type Mike's slot name. Keep listening and keep investing Big Mike style. See you on the next episode.